Money works for you while you sleep. And you know how it does that? One of the main ways it does that is by investing in real estate, right? Real estate will make money for you while you sleep, while you do other things, while you vacation. And so that's the message that we want to share. With that being said, we found great success in being a one-stop shop. And I always want you guys, as real estate professionals, I want you to look at how you can create that same environment for your customers, right? Create that same one-stop shop environment for your customers. You don't have to be obviously a licensed loan officer. You don't have to be a closing attorney, right? But you have relationships, right? You have a relationship. You have, if you have not had one before, you have a relationship with me. And you can, when you present yourself and you say, my team, I'm a one-stop shop, right? And so we want to make sure that we train you guys and teach you guys everything you need to know to create your own ecosystem so that you can consult your clients with clarity, navigate transactions without chaos, and grow your business with confidence, right? All right. So with that being said, navigating Florida's down payment assistance programs. I see you, Chandra. So why down payment assistance matters. We know that 68% of renters cite, sorry, handout link is in the chat. I do that every time. And I always just take off. So the link to the handout is in the chat. You guys check the chat for the handout. 68% of renters cite down payment as a top barrier to home ownership, right? And here's why. You're welcome. Well, coming up with, 10,000, 12,000, especially when you're already renting. Okay. Let's think about this logically. If you're already renting, and let's say, for example, you make $7,000 a month and you pay on average $2,500 to $3,000 in rent, you have your other expenses. That means in order for you to save up for a down payment, or at least just a margin of down payment, that means you must have a margin of about $1,000 per month in your income, between your income and your expenses. And many people don't have that. And the $1,000, assuming they have that, that's $12,000, right, in a year, right? Now, that's also assuming what? That's assuming they're going to be able to find a property where $12,000 will cover their down payment, all the costs that are associated with purchasing. And you guys know that that's a stretch, right? Unless you're in a market where that makes sense, but that's a stretch. And so what happens is, particularly when we have first-time home buyers, for move-up buyers, this is not an issue. We know that because they have real estate. Generally, they have equity in that home that they're going to use for their next purchase. But when they are first-time home buyers, they generally just don't have that. They don't have that cash reserve, and so this is where down payment assistance comes into play. So DPA, as we're going to call it going forward, which of course stands for down payment assistance, they help bridge the affordability gap, right? So again, we talked about this before. I have the income, I have the credit, but I can't afford the down payment and the closing costs, right? And so that's where down payment assistance comes in. And so when you understand as a realtor down payment assistance and you understand the options, you're able to expand your buyer pool. Because I assure you, there are many of you have in your database buyers who, again, they have the income, they have the credit, but they don't have that lump sum monies available to them to get them to the closing table, right? So, types of down payment assistance. Again, this is for your information. And of course, as you meet with buyers, you should know this as well. The three main types of down payment assistance are grants, which are, they don't have to pay that back. It's money to them. It's a grant. As soon as they close, it is a grant. It is funds to them. They will never have to pay those monies back. Another form of down payment assistance is a deferred payment loan, right? And the deferred payment loan is similar to Hometown Heroes. You do not have to make any payments on the loan during the life of the loan. However, it will be repaid upon a certain outcome or action taking place, particularly, for example, in the instance of down payment of Hometown Heroes, if the property is sold, if it's refinanced, if title to the property changes, if the primary borrower moves out of the property. Now that down payment assistance it needs to be repaid. And so one other thing I should say before I go on to the last one, guys, know that when the down payment assistance is not a grant, it is a second loan, right? So that's the concept to understand. They have their purchase money loan, and then they have their second loan is their down payment. So going to the third type of down payment is a forgivable loan. So those loans are types where they'll have terms that say, well, the principal balance decreases over time as you remain in the property, right? So say for example, I'll say SHIP, for example, in Palm Beach. I don't know the exact time frame, but the amount that is due and owing trickles down as the borrower remains in the property for a certain number of years. I don't know. I don't have committed to memory the number of years. So many, there's like hundreds of programs, right? We're going to get to a list, Michelle, at it down. It's 30 years out of, there you go. 30 years. Thank you for that. So, I'm going to hit at a high level two main types of down payment assistance sources for us to discuss today. So Florida Housing Finance Corporation, you guys have probably heard of them before. You may have done trainings with them before. They're now on our schedule with RAPB to do 3 CE courses, and I think they do it every month, where they go over down payment assistance programs that are available through the organization, how the funding comes in, the Sadowski Fund, and so on and so forth, as well as they'll talk particularly about Hometown Heroes. So Florida Housing Finance Corporation, and I have their website there at the bottom. They have different loan programs and down payment assistance options. The most popular down payment assistance program is Florida Hometown Heroes. How many of you know that Florida Hometown Heroes will not be available as of July 1st, as it has been in the past? It will not. Great. Michael said he knew. It will not be available. That's huge because there's a lot of people that were waiting. Yes, there's a lot of people that were waiting on this program. And so I had one of my agents, he's like, well, there goes 12 of my buyers. Because like we always talk about, he knows his pipeline. I always tell you guys to know what it takes. Correct. So he said, say what? No, it will not be available July 1st. It's coming, but it will not be July 1st. If you look on their Instagram page, and also not on their website, but on Instagram, they have the budget, but it just needs to go be approved, but it will not be July 1st. All right. So high level about Hometown Heroes, you generally get 5% of the purchase price up to $35,000 for down payment and closing costs. Of the 3 types of down payment assistance programs we discussed, this one is a deferred. It's the second option. It's a deferred 0% interest rate, non-amortizing second mortgage. Non-amortizing means that amount stays the same. If the borrower was awarded $35,000 in down payment assistance when they close, it's going to be $35,000 for the life of the loan, right? It's never going to go away. It's never going to go away. When they sell, then that $35,000 will be repaid, right? But they make no monthly payments. They make no monthly payments. And again, the balance is due upon sale or refinance. The minimum credit score to qualify for this loan program, this down payment assistance program, is 640. Now, we know that there are maximum income limits based on the county. We know that the borrower must be a full-time employee of a Florida employer. Now, one of the things that's coming out this year is that they are rolling it back to specified occupations. Remember, Hometown Heroes came out and we were talking about first responders, so teachers, medical professionals, firefighters, and then we opened it up to a whole slew of other professions. It was no longer first time, it was no longer what Hometown Heroes, it was just workers, right? Well, they rolled it back again. They rolled it back again to specified professions. And again, this is still not final. So the amount, the parameters still have to be approved and signed off by the governor. Okay. And the borrower must be a first-time home buyer. However, that requirement is not in place for veterans. Right. Right. So on balance, I can tell you guys that Florida Hometown Heroes is a decent program. Now, the objections that people have is the fact that it's non-amortizing and it remains there. It does not go away, right? Like SHIP, that amount stays the same. But my position is, if you otherwise cannot afford to purchase, then you don't have that down payment. Then what is your option? To continue paying rent, or there's other down payment assistance programs. Many of them are not as what do you call it? The assistance isn't as much, but these are some of the trade-offs. The other thing I'll say about Hometown Heroes, and we're going to talk about this later in the presentation, is their timing. They're pretty efficient in their processing. Versus other down payment assistance programs, particularly local down payment assistance programs, which we're going to talk about now. Michelle, you asked earlier about a resource. DPA1, Freddie Mac's DPA1 is it's a free online resource. It has thousands, I think up to 9,000 the last time I checked the other day. I was looking at it in preparation for our talk. I think it said they had 9,000. These programs are local and national. So if you go onto that website, it's free to sign up. Just register for the site, put in your email address. You'll go into that resource. You'll put in the county, you'll put in the city, and it'll show you in that directory down payment assistance programs that are available. Now, I'll tell you that it has about 98% of the down payment assistance programs that are available. There are some that are not, right? Because this is a website that needs to be updated, and a program could come out that is not on the site yet. But by and large, that website has about 98% of down payment assistance programs, and it's a resource that you can search both locally and nationally. All right. So consider that website. Just kind of poke around and see what's out there, right? Just as an example, we're going to hit just three as an example, some local down payment assistance program. So Miami-Dade County has a program. They have up to, you're welcome. They have up to about $7,250 for first-time home buyers. Most of these programs require that you complete a home buyer education program. And I mentioned this to you guys, I want to say 2 weeks ago, we were going over loan products, but it's quick, right? Some of the programs are set up where it's in person and it may be a full day, but most of them are online and they can be completed within an hour or so, right? Just as fast as the borrower makes their way through these presentations. It's a recorded presentation. They'll answer a couple of questions and they've completed their home buyer education program, right? So that is a requirement in Miami-Dade County. Yes. Another one is Orange County, Orlando area. They have up to $35,000 for low to moderate income buyers. And that one is forgivable after 10 years. So remember, these different programs, some are forgivable. This one is 10. Remember, I mentioned the other is 30, right? And so the buyer just needs to know what their options are. Lastly, Tampa has a program for any of you that are in Tampa. City of Tampa DARE program up to $40,000 for eligible buyers, subject to income limits and property caps. And so you'll see that on Tampa. We have a file that we're closing where it's up to $50,000 in Hollywood. Now, the thing is, and I meant to do a screenshot, many of these cities run out of money quickly. They just do, right? Because there's a lot of people that are interested in it. So I was, again, in preparation for our discussion, I was looking at a site to look at the different cities, and a lot of cities were out of, I would say 98% of the cities were fully funded. They do not have any monies. But again, when it is available, it's available, and it's a resource that you guys should know about. Now, down payment assistance that is not as, the funds are not as much, but they're more consistently available, is down payment assistance from your national lenders, right? So for example, lenders that we work with, Rocket has a 1% down conventional 1% down program where the buyer will pay 1%, Rocket will pay 2% of their down payment and closing costs, right? So they do have an income limit. Maximum income is 80% of the area median income. You guys will often hear it called AMI, right? So as long as the borrower does not make more than 80% of the median income of that area, then they qualify to put 1% down, and the lender will match them 2% down in down payment assistance. And again, these programs work because they are consistently available. They're consistently available. You don't see them running out of money, right? And also the timing of their processing is in line with your traditional financing approval period. I'm going to talk more about that in a couple of slides. Okay. So just use an example of what this looks like. A hypothetical. First-time home buyer in Orlando, purchase price $275,000. Nobody's like, what, where? Just again, where is a hypothetical? Their income is $58,000 per year. They're qualifying for Florida Assist at $10,000. Orange County program with DPA up to $20,000, and then they use the FHA 3.5% down loan program. It's going to take. They're using these programs. The other thing you guys should know too is that many of these programs can stack, right? You can stack. So you can get assistance, as you see on the screen here, from Florida Housing. You can get assistance from a local program, right? And so you can stack these different programs. And this would reduce, in this hypothetical, this borrower's cash to close from $13,000 to $2,000. All right? So you can stack it. And that's important for them to know that. Now, same time, generally, yes, Stacy. Stacy's question, do DPA programs generally refresh their funds same time yearly? Yes, generally, yes. So what is the general eligibility requirements? Remember, every program is different, but as a general matter, you're talking to a buyer. You're doing a buyer consult. You are preparing content, right? You're marketing. Are they a first-time home buyer? The understanding, if you're looking at a particular program, for example, Hometown Heroes, you know that their income limit and the purchase price limits, do they fall within that, in that range? Are they going to be willing to take a home buyer education course? We talked about that. That's quick. Everybody should be willing to do that. That's just about as much time as it takes for us to do these webinars each week, right? Minimum credit score. Do they have the minimum credit score? They have to know this is going to be their primary residence. Many down payment assistance programs do not allow for multifamily properties. So this would not be something where they are looking to purchase like a fourplex or a triplex. Many do not allow for that. Some allow for a duplex at least, but many do not allow for fourplex and triplexes. All right. And of course, and again, it has to be their primary residence. I've had the question before, can we use down payment assistance for an investment property? No, it's their primary residence. All right. So, one second. So they are going to, with the first-time homebuyer programs, it's going to be a HUD-approved housing counselor. When they take the education classes, it has to be with an approved counselor. And the lender, we always tell them who they can take these classes from. You, of course, want to work with a lender who offers down payment assistance option, who's aware of the down payment assistance programs that are available. And then again, you want to use pre-qualification tools early. Are they a first-time home buyer? Do they have the requisite credit score? If they have a 580, we can do FHA, but we probably can't do FHA in a down payment assistance program because of the income limits, right? If you're looking at a particular program like Hometown Heroes. Now, the other thing, and I ran into this a couple of times, and this is important for both the consumer and the realtor to understand. Even though your buyer may qualify for a down payment assistance and closing costs funds, they still must have money to go into contract, right? They still have to have an earnest money deposit. They still have to have monies for inspections. They still have to have monies for appraisals. They still have to have money for, if you do a mold inspection. Does that make sense? And so we've had situations before where the buyers did not understand that, yes, your realtor is going to, they've referred you over for down payment assistance. However, there still needs to be monies on hand to get you under contract. Let's not forget that, right? They got to go under contract. And fingers crossed that the one property, you guys know how many times you go under contract, you do an inspection, ugh, that one didn't stick. You go under contract again, you do another inspection. So I say that to say, let's make sure they have enough money for possibly two, worst case scenario, three inspections, right? Right. So down payment assistance cannot be all the cash that they have. That's it's not going to work, right? Because they have to have an earnest money deposit, and then they have to get their inspections and their appraisal. Now, here's another concept that I want to make sure that we understand. Assuming, great, we have our purchase money loan approved. We've identified down payment assistance that they qualify for. We've gone under contract, or we've identified a property, and we are under contract. Going back to what I talked about before, down payment assistance is a second loan that must be approved just like the first loan, meaning the lender is going to have their underwriting timeline. And depending upon the down payment assistance program, I'm trying to say this as straightforward without being too harsh. Many times the local down payment assistance program, guys, their timelines are not as quick as we would like double the time almost. Many times local down payment assistance programs will not begin underwriting their loan until the first loan underwriting is completed. I mean, who does that work for? It's going to work for some because we close them. But I want to make this point. This is not, do not promote this. Do not negotiate with the seller as a quick close. This is not a quick close. You can have a certain close, right? Because your buyer checks all the boxes, but do not say to a seller, oh, yeah, we can close in 21 days. No, do not, because you're going to frustrate all parties. And it's just not going to happen, right? You want to ensure that the down payment loan approval timeline will meet the loan approval deadline. So with that being said, I want to make this clear. We know that we have a loan approval deadline. And I just told you that oftentimes when you have down payment assistance does not start underwriting their loan until the first loan has been approved. What happens if your buyer really needs that down payment assistance to close? You're past your loan approval deadline and they don't qualify for DPA for some reason. Escrow deposit is at risk. So what is the point I want to make here? It's a very important point. If you know that you're going in with down payment assistance, be upfront with the seller and make sure that your loan approval deadline matches that timeline. Does that make sense? Make sure, if you know that your down payment assistance program is going to need, 6 weeks, it's just what it is. We're in a buyer's market, right? And you have some sellers that do not have the same sense of urgency that others do, and you just have to have that conversation. It would be better for you to have the conversation up front than to frustrate your seller, not telling them that you're seeking down payment assistance. I can't tell you the number of times I've had listing agents that say, I didn't know they were trying to get down payment assistance. What do you mean they need an extension because they're getting down payment assistance? So just be upfront. Again, it will help all parties involved, right? Similarly, if you go under contract, you didn't know that your buyer was going to seek down payment assistance. A program came available that they qualify for, that they would like to take advantage of. Ask for an extension of your loan approval deadline. Hey, we just found out that the buyer could qualify for $30,000. We would like to negotiate to extend their loan approval deadline because, it would really help them. All right. Justin, go ahead. You have a question?
Yes, I want to know what about the down payment assistance from a lender? Does it take a long time for them to get it also?
Generally, it does not. Nope. It does not. When you use down payment assistance from a lender, generally they are in line with your purchase money loan because they are they're financing. They're doing both of them. So that's a very good question. I'm glad you asked. I meant to tell you that. That's why I separated the two. Um, so Mike says, so is double the underwriting time a safe bet for, yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Helen. Can you ask the question? Absolutely.
So if so you said if they have the loan commitment, the first one has to be approved first before the DPA. So if they write that and we've met that first loan commitment, can't the lender just write in there that the one of the conditions is they one of the conditions that's still outstanding is the DPA, and then that protects the escrow money?
I'm glad you asked that question. So the answer is no, and I'm going to tell you why. I want to make sure that everybody understands this. And I even had a lender call and ask me this. Notwithstanding the fact that the document that comes out at loan approval is called a conditional loan approval, that does not create a condition that the buyer can go back and say, well, we couldn't make that condition, so we need to cancel. Does that make sense? That does not create a contingency in your contract past that deadline. That's why I advise realtors when that condition approval comes out, review it. Review it with the lender. Make sure you review it with the buyer. Are we good with these conditions? We're not asking for 2023 tax returns and we're in 2025, right? We're not asking for pay stubs. Like, why are we still asking for pay stubs and we're at loan approval? The concept to understand is simply because the document that comes out, as Helen called, we used to call it loan commitment, conditional loan approval. Although it says conditional, it does not create an additional contingency period in your contract past your loan approval deadline. Is that clear?
That is clear, but I do have another question.
Go ahead.
After that time period, and then later, say it's getting closer to closing, and then the lender says, I'm sorry, the buyer was not able to get the loan. So now does this buyer get their escrow money back?
Not unless there's some other terms in the contract that allows for it. Okay. I want you to see that loan approval deadline as generally that's your point of no return. And that's how I teach it. That's your point of no return. If you get past that deadline and you cannot get approval for your loan, you're at the mercy of the seller to agree to give your escrow deposit back. Unless there's some type of seller default. But in our hypothetical, there's no seller default. You simply have a situation where you've gotten to your loan approval deadline, and on the other side of that deadline, something happens. That's it. And what happens on this side of the deadline is because of the buyer and not a seller's issue, and there's no other contingency. Then no, you can't just cancel and get the escrow deposit back.
I don't think all lenders know that.
No, they do not.
Because they've given me, after the loan commitment deadline, they have given me, like, right before closing, that a letter that the buyers have not been able to get the loan, and I've gotten the other side to sign the paperwork, so the buyers have gotten their money back. But how you're explaining it, they don't have to.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They absolutely do not. When you say I don't think every lender understands that, I'm for sure, I am positive that every lender does not understand that. And this is where, and I see your hand out, this is where, guys, and this is where it gets important for you guys to really work with professionals that not just know their part, but know the whole thing. And this is why I also say Don't just kick the contract into title, put it with the lender and say, all right, let me know, because they're not watching those timelines. They are not. They're not watching those timelines. They're not taking contract classes. What lender do you know has taken a contract class? I'll wait. Yet there's a whole almost, there's about 3/4 of a page of terms that are related to financing. Love them, but I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, you gotta know if they don't know, I hate to put another burden on you guys, but if you're not working with a lender that understands the contract and then watching your timelines, then it is your responsibility. And that's what it is. It's what it is. But very good question. I'm glad you asked it. And if it can come up every time we talk, then it will be helpful. And again, the guys, that's why I've built this community. I'm building systems and frameworks, because there are so many blind spots that folks are just not they're not talking about, and they're not educating you guys properly on. Aldo, go ahead. What's your question?
Thank you. This last little section that you just covered is super important. Sometimes you can take for granted some of the performances clause on contracts, specifically with down payment assistance. And you're right, the lender could be helpful, as well as some of the verbiage in their pre-approval. So that was my question. So if the lender provides in their conditional approval subject to DPA approval, would that be language enough to protect on the contract's performance clause, or?
No, what you need to do is, when you get a condition, and I'm glad you're asking this, and you guys ask all the questions that you have around this topic, because I really want you to understand that at the end of the day, unless you extend your loan approval deadline or add terms to the contract that specifically says subject to, right? You would have to make it a term of the contract. So I'm glad what you said. So Aldo said the loan approval comes out, conditional loan approval comes out, lender says subject to
DPA approval,
down payment assistance, right? So Aldo then needs to come back and say, hey, we need to add an addendum to the contract that the financing is subject to down payment assistance. If they cannot get down payment assistance, then they'll need to cancel the contract, get their escrow deposit back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes good sense. And I was wondering about that in regards to some lenders actually putting the condition for their loan approval based on the approval of the down payment assistance source. But I think you're right. I think what solidifies this twofold would be great. The lender's doing a little bit more, but put it in the contract as
right. So
as
that's a very good question. So I want to add something to what you just said. So Aldo just brought up two points. One, Aldo mentioned that we knew from pre-approval that this buyer needed down payment assistance. And so if we knew from pre-approval that this buyer needed down payment assistance, we then need to say, well, how long? When do we expect that approval? If we know that this particular program is not going to start reviewing the file for down payment assistance approval until the first loan is approved, okay, loan officer, how long is it going to take to get the first loan approved? 3 weeks? Okay, boom. How long is DPA going to take? 3 weeks? Okay, so now we know in the financing clause, that loan approval, we need to make sure that we have at least 6 weeks?
About, yeah. A lender could probably be a little quicker, just subject to appraisal. They could probably do it in about a couple of days, but the city is going to take.
Yeah, as long as they want to take.
Yeah, as long as they want. But for the most,
let's be honest.
For the most part, I think they do a home inspection and they won't talk to you until that's done to make sure that the property qualifies.
Correct.
So at least 6 weeks. I would say that's, yeah, probably a good number.
Y'all hear that? 6 weeks. Without, yes, I can't get into specifics, but I have the closing team has files that is in exactly the posture that Aldo just said. Okay,
Big
now we
aha
do
moment
the
here, though.
inspection.
But thank you for bringing that up, the question and the expansion on that, because it's super important.
Yeah,
There's a lot of risk with deposits at hand, and there's so many other things to consider that could be quickly an oversight just because we're used to the regular contract,
correct.
formatting, but when it comes to DPA, that's probably one of the biggest things aside from everything else.
Yes. Stacy's question is the home inspection in addition to the buyer's inspection. Yes, Stacy. The down payment assistance lender is sending out their own inspector. It's a very good question. So there's a program in Hollywood that particularly, for example, they're doing an inspection of the property and it is their inspector. They're underwriting the buyer's finances. They're looking at bank statements and asking their own questions. What are these deposits? What are these withdrawals, right? And they're doing their underwriting process on the back of the lender's underwriting process. Now I'll tell you, City of Hollywood is $50,000. That's a big check. That's a big check for a buyer, $50,000. So of course they're willing to go through the paces. The question is the seller willing to give them that time that they need? Does it happen? Absolutely. 100% can happen. But what's most important is to be open with your communications with the seller to say, this is the time that I need. Right? All right. Jocelyn, go ahead with your question, sir.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Like, so shouldn't like you put that in the contract? Like, once you go in the contract, you just go ahead and make that part of the contract from the
It would be
beginning?
best. It would be best because what we know for sure, like I said, unless the buyer is utilizing one of the like lender programs, like Rocket, let's just say the name Rocket, so you guys don't get confused. Kind has one. Unless they're using one of the big lender programs like Rocket or Kind, we know that it's going to take a little bit more time to get that down payment assistance process. And since you know that, let's be open, right? Let's say seller, this is a solid buyer. They have the income, they have the credit, they just simply need down payment assistance that's going to get them over the line. Now, because of that, it's going to take them, maybe 6 more weeks. And how about this? We got to give and take here. Do they have a little bit more money to put down in escrow? So the seller's like, oh my God, 6 weeks and you only want to give me $1,000 escrow deposit? Like, what are we talking about? Right? 6 weeks and you only want to give me $2,000. So they may have to put a little bit more skin in the game for that time. But again, the opportunity to complete an application process for $50,000, I would think is worth it. All right. All right. What else? So again, guys, just be careful. Be careful with that financing, with that loan approval deadline. It's solid. And to Helen's question, unless the seller just agrees to release the escrow deposit, that is a bright line. That is a bright red line. That's your stop sign right there. Let's make sure we do what we need to do with it. Let's extend it, right? Can we get an extension of the loan approval deadline? And we've had that happen. We've seen it and we've agreed to it. All right. But just make sure that you know what that deadline is. All right. All right. So remember, we can stack. I've asked for a loan commitment extension. Yeah, do it. Please do. And remember, oh God, now we're getting into contracts. Okay. Well, this is what we do. So we request the extension. Remember, paragraph 8, financing clause. Buyer has 3 responsibilities at loan approval deadline. They always have to give notice, right? I'm approved and proceeding. I'm not approved. I need to cancel. Or I don't have a response yet, but I'm still proceeding, right? Or can we get an extension? If the seller is not willing to extend, but the buyer wants to proceed, I would suggest that you guys get in writing that they understand what they're risking with that. Meaning, you risk potentially not getting your escrow deposit back. You're not the lender, but you understand the lending process. We have this conversation that's in some shape or form every week. You're not the lender, but you understand the lending process. And you understand that it's not a guarantee that they're going to get the approval. But I am the realtor and I facilitate this contract. And I know that this contract has a deadline for us to get a loan approval. And I know that we've asked for them to move this deadline and they're not agreeing to move this deadline. And I know that if we don't get approval past this deadline, then your escrow deposit is at risk. And I understand that you trust your lender and you trust that your lender is going to be able to get it done. And instead of canceling this contract because we can't get the extension, you would like to move forward. And we can do that. I just need to make sure that we document that you made that decision willingly and knowing that we could potentially have this escrow deposit at risk. Is that okay? Okay, great. I'll be sending over this document by DocuSign. It's just something that our book requires for our records. Protect yourself. All right. All right. What else we got? Any other questions? We talked about a lot. We talked about 5 different things that we were supposed to talk about today. But again, this is the loop back. This is where it all kind of, it all ties back in together. We're not tunnel vision. I'm sure when we come together each week, you guys realize that you're like, I signed up to sell real estate. I didn't sign up to be a contract attorney, Ray Cole. Well, I'm sorry. Make sure this recording, that this recording is saved to our school community. If you're not already on the school app, the QR code is there on the screen. Minnie has also dropped the link in the chat. Click the link. School is an app. It's similar to Facebook, but it is all about learning. In there, we have a community where we keep these recordings. You also have the handouts from prior classes. And we also have a little wall, a wall. So you can ask questions, check in, get a little bit of motivation during the week. And it's just a place to where all of this information and collaboration, the hub. What's up, Jocelyn? Go ahead.
Do you have any videos on mortgage training?
On mortgage training as far as what specifically?
Like, the different type of mortgages in terms of, once you have, meet up with the client and you get the information, what's the next step?
We do have a training in there on loan products. I want to say it's about 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Go look at that. It's high level, but it's going to tell you about the different types of loan products, right? So we talk about FHA, VA, USDA, conventional. Then we talk about your non-QM, which is like your bank statement loans. And then we do quickly talk about investor loans, so DSCR. Were you on the call? Were you on that call?
No, I was not. I mean, for someone, I have my mortgage license, but I haven't been doing anything, so I'm fresh. I'm looking to learn,
Okay.
So.
All right, go in the school community, shoot me a DM. Let's jump on a call and see how we can get you going. Because if you're already licensed, you definitely would. In today's market, it will behoove you to get back into learning, what's available, because you can have a different conversation with the buyer than others can who are not licensed.
Yeah, because I was licensed before back in 2005. And then back in 2008, I just gave up everything and I decided to get it back now. So it seems like everything has changed, from when I was doing it, So.
As it does.
Yeah.
David, you also have both? David, DM me. Let's see how you guys can. You should definitely see. Now we have another conversation. You guys should definitely, if you are licensed, if you would like to be licensed, you should take advantage of the program that's available as what we call it a reload. So a dual licensed real estate agent and loan officer. Take advantage of that because there's a couple things you can do with that. Not only do you create multiple income streams, because you can be paid on both sides of the deal. Mm-hmm. You can be paid on both sides of the transaction. So not only do you do that, but you also increase your pipeline, because what I always tell you guys, market the money. Buyers don't know that they have these opportunities if no one tells them. And who's better at telling them than realtors? I just don't even think loan officers get that information out as well as they should and could, right? Absolutely. So if you guys are interested, definitely get in the community. And this is, again, like I said, this is where Purchase Ready came from. Purchase Ready is a one-stop shop. You can be a one-stop shop, and it will benefit your customers greatly. All right. All right. With that being said, we are at halftime. July is upon us. So in July, we're getting into our get it in writing topic again. So on the 3rd, next Thursday, we're going to talk about executing buyer brokerage agreements with ease. I'm going to tell you guys, if you're like, oh, I already took a buyer brokerage agreement class before, well, guess what? You need to show up, because as we work through this, guys, and Helen, I'm sure you can attach to this, because we talked about this during the last session. I can tell you guys, the more and more that we work through this new era of buyer brokerage agreements and seller compensation agreements, the more we work through it, the more things bubble up. And the more things bubble up, the more I schedule these classes and get you guys ahead of it. There are some issues out there just because it's new, right? Like they say, what doesn't come out in the wash comes out in the rinse. Well, it's rinsing. And so we make sure you guys are on the call July 3rd to go over what are some of these gaps that we've identified in the buyer's mortgage agreement, the seller compensation agreement on the 10th, the listing agreement on the 17th, contract hotspots on the 24th. Of course, we just talked about some of them today, which is the financing section of the contract. And then July 31st, protect the escrow deposit. So yeah, next month is compliance heavy, it's contract heavy. It's where we're seeing the most issues right now in our contract. So make sure you guys document these dates. We're here every Thursday at 12. So just show up. I'm sure it's gonna be something you'll want to hear. Is DPA home inspection additional cost of the buyer? It can be. Yes, if the down payment assistance program is charging for it, then yes, it could be, Helen. Very good question. All right. All right. Follow us on social. Reach out to us. Again, make sure you sign up. Contact number. We forgot again, Minnie. The contact information isn't on this slide. Make sure Rika gets that up. Hit me a DM me, Jocelyn, or email me at raycole@purchaseready.com. Drop that in the chat, please, Minnie. raycole@purchaseready.com. You're welcome. This is very good. You guys asked all great questions. All great questions. We got a lot of work to do, but guess what? It's not that hard. Just stay connected. Oh, I missed the E. Purchaseready.com. Learn more to earn more. Learn more to earn more, right? All right, guys. Good to see you. See you next Thursday. Same place, same time. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
See you later, Helen.